I'm looking at the text messages being exchanged by the suspect in the case and his description of his father as having become very MAGA after the most recent election. And so you could loosely describe with some confidence the family from which the suspect has come as a MAGA family. They're certainly very into guns and that kind of thing. Again, apart from that, we know next to nothing, and yet immediately Donald Trump was trying to claim that the killer was representative of what they call, in quotes, the left, whatever that means. It means to me, generally, people who think that we should have a slightly fairer distribution of wealth.
In this video, we're going to see James O'Brien break down something that should send chills down anyone who cares about democracy and free speech. A late-night comedian, Jimmy Kimmel, was literally suspended. Not for some offensive joke, but for the simple act of playing Donald Trump's own words back to the public. Meanwhile, voices on the right, who constantly preach about protecting free speech, are suddenly silent when it's their side doing the silencing. The hypocrisy couldn't be clearer. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Now, let's get into it.
Charlie Kirk, upon whom I have had something of a crash course in recent days, set up an organisation or set up a scheme called Professor Watch. Professor Watch, which was literally designed to encourage students to report members of the faculty at their academic institutions for well, I don't know for what, for unacceptable opinions. And yet they have co-opted the idea, these people have co-opted the idea that they have their free speech being threatened at the moment. I don't know, I apologise for bringing this to your attention almost, but one of the most ludicrous human beings ever to draw breath, a chap called Sebastian Gorka, who you may have had the misfortune of coming across. He's even got a piece on the LBC website today making various claims about the importance of free speech being protected. And yet Donald Trump's administration is trying to shut down free speech in universities, shut down free speech on the streets of the United States of America, and now shut down free speech on television. Stephen Colbert's show's already gone, and now Jimmy Kimmel's show has been suspended. Would you like to know for what? I've got this thing, right? There's part of me that my internal dialogue on a morning like this is largely, why are we talking about this? Is it really such a big deal? And you might be listening to this thinking, why is James going in on an American employment issues on an American broadcaster? And the answer is, and I think I'm a little bit frightened of confronting this face on, is the direction of traffic now is getting close to terrifying. This is what an American talk show host called Jimmy Kimmel has been suspended from his job for.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
I saw that clip of Trump. I meant to play it out last week, but I forgot. And it was quite extraordinary. While his movement were in a form of purdah, they were going through incredibly public grief. His movement were doing that, and his key allies and supporters. He was given an opportunity to reflect upon what impact Charlie Kirk's murder had had on him, and he could barely acknowledge it before asking the reporters to look over there at some trucks that were delivering some bricks. And that was a joke there from Jimmy Kimmel. I'm looking at the text messages being exchanged by the suspect in the case and his description of his father as having become very MAGA after the most recent election. And so you could loosely describe, with some confidence, the family from which the suspect has come as a MAGA family. They're certainly very into guns and that kind of thing. Again, apart from that, we know next to nothing, and yet immediately Donald Trump was trying to claim that the killer was representative of what they call, in quotes, the left, whatever that means. It means to me, generally, people who think that we should have a slightly fairer distribution of wealth. Quite how that lends itself to murderous motivation, God only knows. Except, of course, it doesn't. It doesn't. And what you'll get now is people who've spent a couple of years pretending to care about free speech suddenly switching off that gene and either supporting or staying silent about that television presenter. Here's another one in the United States of America. Here's another television presenter speaking this week.
They have given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why?
Just listen to that again, and no one's shocked. No one even draws breath. Let's euthanize homeless people, says a presenter on Fox News.
Billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why did it have to get to this point?
Right. I would say this. We're not voting for the right people. In North Carolina, wake up.
Involuntary lethal injection. So they're in real time on Fox News, a man called Brian Kilmeade, not joking. Let me make that absolutely clear. Not joking. Not even claiming to be joking. In all seriousness, suggests killing homeless people. Involuntary lethal injection. He's subsequently apologised, but he wasn't joking. So I don't know what he's apologised for. Maybe his free speech is under threat. And then Jimmy Kimmel, who we will listen to again, has been suspended from his job for this.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger-pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
So the way it happened was that a couple of distributors, Nexstar and Sinclair, Nexstar most obviously, essentially said they would no longer broadcast the Jimmy Kimmel show on their stations. And that is where the pressure is applied from. I think they are in the business of, or in the process of doing a deal that would need approval from a Donald Trump appointee. So clearly it has struck them or been made clear to them that the president is unhappy with having his own words played out on the television, having his own answer to a question. This is where my conviction that this is all rather more serious than a television presenter losing their job. A president essentially getting someone fired, not for saying things about the president, essentially, but for showing people footage of the president. That's the point, right? It's not, I mean, you know, you can ask for homeless people to be killed. Okay, keep your job. Not even draw shock from your own colleagues in a Fox News studio. The Fox News is essentially the media wing of the MAGA movement, despite some brief wobbles. And you can show your audience footage of Donald Trump responding in an extraordinarily crass fashion to the murder of somebody widely portrayed as a close friend and ally of him. And that's what gets you into trouble. Showing the audience what Donald Trump is like appears to be what gets you into trouble. So what we have here is regime-adjacent oligarchs clamping down on free speech in the most extraordinary fashion. So I think, and then I worry, and thank you for indulging me today, but then I worry, I worry about media talking about media. I always have. I did the media show on Radio 4 yesterday. Media talking about media is something I love, but I am in the media. It's like one of my favourite subjects. And this feels bigger than that, right? This feels much bigger than that. Do you know what the Reichstag fire is? Sorry, I'm patronising you. Of course you do. And just in case you don't, one Dutch communist set fire to the Reichstag in Germany in the 1930s. And Adolf Hitler claimed that it was part of a much, much bigger movement, and he used this moment to essentially shut down liberties, to close down democracy, to cease freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And when Charlie Kirk was murdered, a few people mentioned that this could be a Reichstag fire moment, including people on Donald Trump's side of the political aisle. And I think I have a reluctance to go there. Is it fear? Is it a form of cowardice? I don't want to confront the possibility of this being as bad as some people say that it is. So I mentioned the Reichstag fire to you last week, but I didn't go all in on it. And I've watched what's happened subsequently. People being encouraged to inform upon their neighbours, people being encouraged to inform upon their colleagues, people being encouraged to inform upon their teachers, their professors, their workmates, their friends, for not being sufficiently reverent or sombre in the context of Charlie Kirk's killing. And now you have Donald Trump apparently proscribing Antifa, which is a thing but not a thing. Like, tell me where they're headquartered, tell me who funds them, tell me who they are, name some members, who is the leader. You can't prescribe as a terrorist organisation something that you can't identify or see. But that is what they're doing. That is what they're doing. And they are using this phrase, the left, to somehow conflate Charlie Kirk's killer with everybody who thinks that Donald Trump is dangerous or dishonest. And he just is. He is dangerous and he is dishonest. That's just true. That's not an opinion. It's counting. Some people like that. That's fine. How do we know how serious this is? How do we know? The idea of an American president not even tiptoeing anymore, but marching towards totalitarianism is so alien, so difficult to get your head around, so completely at odds with everything we know, that I think there's a reluctance even to contemplate it. But this is really, really extraordinary. Not so much the sackings and the suspensions, gross though they are, but the way that they're being undertaken by people who simultaneously claim to be defenders of free speech, to be protectors of free speech. And the maddest thing that happened last week was the negative reaction to people being introduced to the words of Charlie Kirk. This still staggers me in the context of both free speech, free expression and proper journalism. Somebody has been murdered in a horrible, horrible way, and we don't know much about him. Let's find out more about him. How dare you find out more about him? How dare you show people what he believed and play clips of him saying the things that he believed? How dare you? How dare you? I'm very, very grateful to Ian Dale. I wouldn't have known that I'd been caught up in that crossfire on Elon Musk's ludicrous platform if Ian hadn't told me on the evening of that day. But I'm a tiny piece of the jigsaw. In America, people who have not been sufficiently somber, people who have dared to question the legacy of his words while mostly mourning his murder, some people behaving very insensitively and crassly, but even that, unfortunately, gets filed under freedom of speech. I had a thought yesterday, and it was this. No defence of free speech has moral value unless you're defending speech you don't like. There's no moral value to defending free speech that you like. The only point at which defending free speech assumes moral agency or has a moral value is when you are recognising the necessity of the free speech of people you don't like, or whose words you don't like, people with opinions you don't like or don't agree with. I've completely lost sight of that recently, but it's so obviously true. I think it's usually attributed to Voltaire or somebody like that, that I hate what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And nobody in Donald Trump's world subscribes to that belief. They are making it increasingly obvious that they want to criminalise criticism. They want to delete dissent. And now they want to censor and silence comedians or talk show hosts who commit the cardinal sin of telling their audiences things that the president has said and done, or things that a murdered activist has said and done. I want you to have a little think about this. And I want you to tell me that I want you to tell me how serious is this? I don't know that you're going to ring me up and tell me to calm down. I kind of hope you are. America sneezes, we catch a cold. Keir Starmer is prostrating himself at the moment before Donald Trump. As we discussed yesterday, I don't think he's got much choice. £150 billion worth of business coming through British tills. It's a big win. I don't know about the relationship between pragmatism and principle at the moment, but I do know this. This kind of thing didn't used to happen in these kind of countries. I want you to tell me how serious you think this is and why. 0345 6060 973. How serious is this moment? The silencing of talk show hosts, the criminalisation of criticism, the deletion of dissent. How serious is this, and how seriously should we take it?
So let's take a step back and look at what just happened here. We have Jimmy Kimmel punished not for spreading misinformation, not for making something up, but for simply repeating Donald Trump's own words. Think about that. In a country that claims to be the global champion of free speech, we're watching the silencing of comedians and commentators because the truth is inconvenient. This isn't just about one TV show being pulled. This is about a creeping culture of censorship where dissent is being crushed, criticism is being criminalized, and the definition of free speech is twisted into a weapon used only by those in power. History has shown us where this kind of silencing leads, from the propaganda machines of the 1930s to every regime that feared being exposed by its own words. The irony? Defending free speech has no moral value unless it's for speech you don't like. That's the test. And right now, Trump's world is failing that test miserably. Stay sharp, stay informed, and as always, thanks for tuning in.